afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Some of these projects don't really start with great plans or anything like that. They just happen because selfish motives or something. You just kind of stumble on these. The whole plastics initiative started with about 2 or 3 different things that happened to me personally. One was I went to Kalpitia. Every morning when we went to the beach, the whole beach was covered in plastic, so you couldn't even get into the ocean till the people in the respective hotels came, cleaned the beach up, and then made it at least practical and clean enough for us to step into the ocean. Next thing was, I don't know how many of you all have been to Delft Island, but Delft Island has about 200 people, about 300 ponies and nothing much else. But if you go to the beaches on Delft Island, it's absolutely covered in plastic. So I was there trying to photograph some, I'm a bird photographer, feathered, and I was on the beach there and just couldn't really get any decent photography because the whole beach was covered in plastic. Third thing that happened was I was a part of a walk called Trail, and we were coming down from Jaffna to Colombo, and all along the A9 when we were walking, you couldn't see more than 4 feet of space on the side of the road without a plastic bottle, a cup, a bag, or something polluting on the side of the road. And second, almost every bus that went past, somebody threw a bottle down. You know, it was just almost like there was no garbage collection inside the buses. Everyone would toss these things out. So then what we thought was we need to do something about this. And we got a team together and we started a study on how much plastic really is a problem in this country and where the problem originates, and started doing a fairly detailed study combined with NARA and the Sri Lankan Navy. The Sri Lankan Navy was extremely helpful at the start. They helped us with all the locations. We did some work at Crow Island, we did Panama, we did Mana, Trinco, Batty, all these places, and got a fair amount of data. And they also had been collecting the plastic on their own without any real way of disposing the plastic or adding value to it. So they were just taking it and kind of burning it. So then my old friend Dr. Anush over here, he and I had been talking for a while, and I knew that he had this great initiative where he was converting plastic into a yarn for his paintbrushes, and also had an intention of converting into yarn to make fabric, which was a much finer and more complex process. To cut a long story short, we started talking and saying, okay, if we get the Navy also involved, we can get all these people together, we can create the collection centers. Anush already had his own collection centers. But with the Navy, what we managed to do is probably get more volume together, and from their bases that they had along the coast, we started collecting meaningful chunks of plastic. We gave them balers. They started putting the plastic in these balers and sending them down to Anush's plant in Warren. And that's where the whole thing started. But it's not as simple as that. There's a huge process that goes into it. And I will talk to you at the end, because first, collecting is one thing, but we also have to understand where does this plastic come from and what do we do to prevent plastic continuing to get into the environment.
Thank you. So it's fairly unique, you know, what we do here, and at the scale that we do things. But the fact that we recycle 250 tons of this plastic waste every month, it's a large amount. It's roughly 20% of what Sri Lanka imports into making your Coke, your Pepsi, or your water bottles. And our plans now are to increase that further. But we have some challenges. So we think we are collecting now largely from the organized areas of waste collection in Sri Lanka. Wherever there is a municipality, wherever there is an urban council, we somehow get access to those plastic bottles. Our problem now is going into the rural areas where there is no organized collection. So what are some of the things, and where invariably the thing is burnt or goes into a landfill. So some of the new things that we are working on are working through schools, working possibly through banks, in getting some of that plastic waste from households into our collection network. So again, I mean, here we have several large companies, corporates in Sri Lanka. Anyone who wants to partner with us in this good cause are welcome to do so. People such as MAS, not for people such as MAS, we wouldn't have got to where we have got to. There's a lot more that we need to do.
Start off with, what do you think the inherent problem is here with Sri Lanka in terms of waste disposal and waste?
Well, I think first we don't have a proper infrastructure to get rid of our waste. So what happens invariably is the waste starts piling up in people's houses or villages or wherever it may be, and eventually finds its way to landfills, to inland waterways, and starts polluting the environment in general. So till we start getting a really comprehensive infrastructure laid out to be able to get rid of our waste, I think this problem is not going to go away.
Are we interested in that? Is the private sector starting?
So I think in pockets you're starting to see that happening now, because more and more, if you look at social media, if you look at the world in general, the topic of environmental sustainability is coming to the front. So it's starting to happen in Sri Lanka. Many many corporates are starting to take it upon themselves to do it. Not enough right now, but I think somebody has to start, and we'd like to be, out in the front of setting that example, and hopefully people will follow.
Yes, going forward, trying to move this along.
I think the biggest issue, if you're looking at private sector, is everybody seems to look at whatever investment they make in terms of a bottom line impact. This doesn't necessarily have an immediate bottom line impact. What we have to start looking at is a further time horizon, that something is a little further out than looking at, say, a 1.5, 2 year return on your investment, and start making this investment, one, looking at our future, and two, because it's the right thing to do to save our planet and our country.
Sustainability function here is MAS. This is one project. What else is that going on?
So one of the things we are doing is making MAS zero waste. That's something that we are working towards. And also zero waste can mean many things. One of the things is that you're not sending into landfill. But what we're trying to do is add value to every bit of waste that we produce in the manufacturing process. So whether Shirendra spoke earlier about adding value to the sludge that gets left over from the dye process by converting it into an ash and then into a briquette. Likewise, we want to take fabric waste, we want to take plastic waste, paper waste, all that, and create value out of that. So as soon as you create an industry and you create value out of it, then you start finding a solution to the problem. But what's also important is that when we start looking at recycled fabric, you have to be able to close the loop. Otherwise, what you're doing is you're taking a plastic bottle, making it into a yarn, making it into a t-shirt, and eventually that t-shirt is going to end up as pollution as well. So we have to start looking now at what happens to that t-shirt at the end of its life cycle.
How can good people get involved with your help?
So first thing that has to happen is this has to become commercially viable. As soon as it becomes commercially viable, people start getting involved. So one of the interesting things that are coming out now, and when people talk about the future, what they're talking about is the industry that uses waste as a raw material. That is going to be the next big boom in terms of economic growth. So hopefully that will catch on in Sri Lanka, and then we'll be able to do the same.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.